Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Next Level Responder, Next Shift, Zero Proof Hero, me. We're going along with the leadership series since I feel like this is something that I've been really passionate about. In this episode, we're going to talk about what leadership looks like when staffing is short. Why this, topic specifically is because it's relatable. Most departments nowadays, they're running short. They're running 3-man trucks, not 4-man like NFPA says, and it affects us in the job that we do. Um, there's been staffing challenges, from police, fire, and EMS, especially when it comes to being ALS medics, things like that, and it's becoming, normal. Um, this is normal all the way around. 3-man trucks here, 3-man trucks there. We're talking about the metropolitan areas, not necessarily the outlying areas. I'm out here in Georgia, so I've worked at a department here or there where they run 2-man engines and stuff like that, even 1-man engines, and that's all they can get at the time, or the city or county can afford based off of their run numbers. So I mean, it is what it is. But today I just want to talk about how short staffing isn't temporary anymore. It's more of just the environment. So let's get to it. First up, we're going to talk about what people think leadership is, and this is leadership in the textbook. They talk to you about, hey, when you get on scene, you're supposed to be in command as the captain, lieutenant, sergeant, whoever's riding seat. You're supposed to tell your people what to do, what resources you need, and things of that nature. Authority when it comes to being on scene, with being a leader as the person riding seat. Like, hey, I need firefighter A to do this. I need firefighter B to pull this hose. I need firefighter C to throw this ladder. And it's different when staffing shortage is just a thing. You get on scene, it's you and another firefighter. And the command aspect that they teach so much in the textbooks and classes and things like that, you pretty much have to condense most of that. And your span of control is just you and another firefighter. So throwing a ladder has to be a 1-man job. Pulling the line has to be a 1-man job. Doing a 360 is part of being a person riding seat. Also, maybe grabbing the ladder, throwing the ladder, or your driver. So you have a 3-man engine. You tell your driver to throw some ladders or catch that hydrant at the same time. It's just kind of different now. And people have that perception, hey, you're the captain on scene, you're supposed to be telling people what to do, not necessarily doing everything, but you're supposed to be the guy with the experience, the leader of everything. But with staffing shortages, it doesn't work like that. You're the catch-all be-all on top of being a leader. So you got a firefighter that's hustling, doing twice their job, and as a person riding seat stuff, we're that other person's job as well. That approach just breaks down fast when staffing is short. That's the main thing that we're talking about now, and it's kind of crazy when people think what leadership is in the fire service specifically, that you're supposed to be that guy that know all be all on scene for the first few moments that you're there before your BC or next unit on scene. Maybe they're more senior than you, they're on a truck or something like that, to have that. But I mean, you even have truck companies only have 3-man, and that's crazier on top of that. So yeah. So let's talk about why and what certain things matter compared to being fully staffed and then having the shortages that everyone's been dealing with recently. Prioritization, when it comes to getting stuff done, when you get on calls, when you're on scene, EMS call, fire call, stuff like that, you got to prioritize and know the people that you're working with. So somebody's tailboard that might have their, they're really good at something, but, mediocre at something else. So you want to kind of prioritize what they're good at that specific moment, and have that mindset and that approach when you get there. Like, hey, we need to get stuff done, and communicate with that person openly. And, should already have that that chemistry as a leader, in my eyes, beforehand with your crew. That, hey, I need you to pull this line, and knowing that they can't throw a ladder by themselves, but they can just pull that line. And maybe they practice, and you've practiced with them over and over again how to pull a line a certain way, things like that. And you know their little quirks, so you go ahead and assist them pulling that line to that front door, to the Bravo Charlie side, wherever it might be, um, to get that prioritization and that objective complete, and established while you're doing your 360 and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of concepts that have been taught and stuff like that. But pretty much I'm just trying to hit the whole leadership thing and having that mentality of, I don't have a fully staffed truck. I mean, I do occasionally personally, we do, you know, have pretty good numbers at my department, but the main thing is establishing that trust and flexibility as a leader, as long, along with that emotional regulation. When you get on scene and maybe you have somebody riding tailboard that you aren't familiar with, that you're like, hey, you know what, my expectations are A, B, C, and D first thing, when you start your shift. And if they have anything they want to look over, go over, or discuss beforehand, we can do that. Because when that time comes and that bell rings and that citizen is concerned and they got everything on your shoulders, you need both of y'all to be in unison at that moment, especially not having that third person back there. Because of course you want your driver to be focused on getting you water, getting the water supply, make sure they have the proper pressures, things like that going on, proper tools, apparatus placement. There's a whole bunch of things that drivers do that the tailboard people, have their responsibilities to do as well. But you want everything to be as fluid as can be and as smooth. That's when leadership kind of shifts from control to clarity, making sure that everybody understands their assignment and that everything is going, as orchestrated, or I don't know, orchestrated is a good word, but you want to orchestrate it as a leader, as comfortably, as smooth as possible. That way, again, the objective and the mission is complete in a safe, steady manner. Lives are saved, as well as property. So, the good old common mistakes leaders make when it comes to, being short-staffed and things of that nature. Overworking people, that's something that we see often, especially, in fire service. You have that leader that's like, hey, I'm gung-ho, I'm happy to be here, this, that, and so forth. And you have a brand new person that hasn't seen this before, and they end up going on a call. Maybe it's a working house fire, structure fire, and you're pulling lines, you're doing your thing as a leader, been there for, 10, 20 years, and you know what's coming. But you have this person that's only been out of the fire academy for, a month, and just working, doing your thing. You're hearing them like, hey, I need a break. You're like, nah, we haven't even gone through a bottle yet. You want a break. You gotta understand your people. Again, it's having that emotional intelligence and understanding and empathy of other people, and not necessarily ignoring their fatigue. They're already showing signs that they're winded and they have a lot going on mentally. Like, hey, this is my first fire, adrenaline's going. This is a lot to digest all at once. I know you've been there, done that, but I need a moment to catch a breather and get back to it. It's also, a common mistake that leaders, avoid those hard conversations, especially when there might be some kind of slip up on calls or at the station or something like that. And not having those hard conversations kind of don't do the person, they give the person the service, that so they can improve on their end. And it's up to them as well, to perceive it the way they want to perceive it, stuff like that. But as a leader, you want to approach it the best you can to avoid them leaving. They could leave, they could maybe show some resentment, in the future towards you. So you don't want to make those common mistakes, pretending everything is normal, and that, hey, I understand that you might have fumbled this most recent job or this most recent task, and it's just normal. And next thing you know, they're going to be 5 years down the road. This is the way I've always done it. No one's ever said anything. And you as a leader could have been like, yeah, you know what? You didn't really do that right. And just nip it in the bud. And make sure you nip it in the bud in the right way, in the right direction. Don't, just be like, oh, well, you fucked up. That's it. Embarrass them in front of other people. That happens often too. But yeah, those are common mistakes that leaders make, especially with short staff. And, you got 80 million things going on in your mind, and you just kind of lose control of the situation. So this is just, the little Sunday fun day thing. I'm started doing them on Sundays and Mondays now. Seems a little bit better for me to, make these episodes throughout the week and then just publish them, edit them as well, and have them published on Sunday afternoon, evening, and then Monday afternoon. Basically, what I'm getting at with this whole leadership playlist is leadership is a tone. It's a tone that you set when you walk in the morning, when you're hanging out with your crew on a daily basis, on calls, even on your off days. Don't be a weirdo about it, but just look out for your people. It's all about people nowadays, and people appreciate that, especially when it hits at a random moment. They're like, man, you just called me just to check on me. You knew that today was my birthday, or you knew that, I had something going on with my family or something going on with me. Hey, we just had these two bad calls. I'm just calling to check on you. I know this resource is here for you, or I know that, you really hard on yourself on that last call that we had ran. And maybe you fumbled the nozzle, when we got to the front door, or you just weren't all there and wasn't with it. And I know you took it, maybe a little harder than you're supposed to. So let's talk about it now while you're relaxed. I don't want you to feel uncomfortable when we get back to work. It's the little things in life. People remember how you make them feel and make things feel, and that's something that leaders should understand and maybe work on, if they can. Short staffing reveals a lot of leaders, especially when it comes to managing the people that you are working with, not necessarily your actions when you're on scene. Yeah, you could be like the most strongest, most skilled, things like that when it comes to, being in the heat of the moment. But if you manage the people that you have on scene in a delicate and appropriate way, you can get stuff done and let them be a part of it at the same time without them feeling like they're being such a nuisance. If they're failing at something, if they're lackluster at something specifically, pick them up, let them know. Be like, hey, I see that you're slipping over here. What can we do together to make things better? To make you more proficient, to make you more of a better person, firefighter, EMT, paramedic, police officer. All those things can be shown in all those various public safety sectors, from a leader. The leader could just be a friend. It could be a coworker that you barely even talk to. Be like, hey, police, just hey, I saw you weren't, you didn't put this in right, or you keep getting this report sent back to you, or you're tying this knot wrong, something like that. Can I show you a different way real quick? You might not, if you be like, oh, I know what I'm doing, which is fine. But at least that you didn't just watch them make that mistake, or, didn't put that hand out there for them to do better for themselves. Anyways, y'all, like, subscribe, write a comment down there. I'm just trying to knock these episodes out one day at a time when I can. Got a pretty busy week ahead of me, so got a couple meetings here or there, and I leave for vacation, scuba diving next week, so I'll be in Saba next to St. Martin. So yeah, you'll be hearing from me. Have a blessed one. See you soon.